What if I told you there is an octopus with ears? Not real ears, of course, but two delicate fins that stick out from its head, flapping gently like the wings of a storybook elephant. It lives so deep under the sea that sunlight has never touched its world, and yet it floats there, patient, strange, and very much alive. Scientists call it the Dumbo Octopus. It sounds whimsical, almost like a child's invention, an animal stitched together from two different fairy tales. But this creature is no invention. It is flesh and blood, fragile and soft, with arms lined in webbing like lace, drifting in a place where pressure could crush steel. To see it for the first time is to feel your sense of the real wobble just a little. You expect monsters in the deep. You expect teeth, shadows, menace, but what you find instead is gentleness. Something small. Something that looks like it belongs in a bedtime story, more than in the abyss. The Dumbo Octopus does not flash with colors like its shallow water cousins. It doesn't squirt ink to escape predators or crawl across rocks searching for crabs. It doesn't need to. Down here, 4,000 meters below the waves, the rules are different. The predators are few and speed is pointless in a place where food drifts rarely like snowflakes of organic dust falling from above. So the Dumbo Octopus drifts too, conserving energy, moving slowly with a grace that feels almost unearthly. Imagine it for a moment, its small body no bigger than a basketball suspended in black water, two rounded fins pulsing gently, its arms flowing beneath it like ribbons. It does not rush, does not fight the current, it simply drifts, waiting for whatever life the ocean might deliver to it. Worms, snails, small crustaceans, meals so modest they would seem laughable to the predators of the surface. But down here, in the cathedral silence of the deep, even a tiny bite of food can mean survival. And here is where the mystery begins. Because almost no one has truly seen this animal in the wild. Most of what we know comes from rare encounters, an unmanned submersible passing by, a deep-sea camera catching a flicker of movement, a lone specimen rising up in a net. Each sighting feels less like biology and more like luck. It is as though the Dumbo Octopus chooses when it will allow itself to be known. What kind of life is that, you wonder? To exist in near invisibility in the spaces between human eyes and human machines, to glide through the cold without a witness. The Dumbo Octopus does not care whether we see it or not. Its life is not waiting for our recognition. It lives for itself in the quiet rhythm of survival, in the long patience of the deep. And yet we hunger for it, for creatures like this. We feel a pull to imagine their worlds, to fill the black water with life, with mystery, with proof that the earth is not finished surprising us. The Dumbo Octopus is not simply a curiosity. It is a reminder that we have not mapped all the edges, that even now in the 21st century, there are animals so strange we barely believe them when they appear on our screens. But here it is, not a drawing, not a legend, not a joke, an octopus with fins like ears, drifting where light has never been. Pause with it for a moment. Picture yourself sinking slowly past the surface of the sea, past the layers where sunlight sparkles, past the scattering schools of silver fish, down further where the water turns darker, colder, where sharks roam in twilight, down still more until the blue vanishes into black. The pressure builds, but you do not feel it because you are only imagining. You are sinking toward the home of the Dumbo Octopus, toward its quiet stage untouched by the surface world. What waits for you there is not terror, it is wonder, a fragile animal with ears that are not ears, with movements that look more like flight than swimming, a creature you will never see with your own eyes unless you devote your life to the deep. And yet you can see it now in your mind, hovering, breathing, surviving in the silent dark. Scientists tell us that the Dumbo Octopus may live its whole life without ever meeting another of its kind. The ocean is that vast, and the population so spread out that it may swim for years in complete solitude. What does solitude mean to such an animal? Does it even feel alone? Or is it simply the way of things, an existence untroubled by the categories of human thought? That is the first piece of the mystery. Not just what the Dumbo Octopus looks like or how it moves, but what it means to live in a way so different from us. To float, patient and unseen, in a darkness that never ends. To embody survival not through aggression or speed, but through gentleness, through drifting, through silence. The Dumbo Octopus exists, and in its existence it asks us a question. How much of life still hides from our gaze? The Dumbo Octopus drifts in a place few of us can imagine. 4,000 meters down, sometimes more. At that depth, sunlight is not just faint, it is gone. There is no dawn or dusk, no sense of sky, only water, heavy and endless. If you were to sink beside it, you would find yourself in a darkness so complete that your body would forget the meaning of light. Your eyes would strain and fail. Your skin would tighten under the crushing weight, as if the sea itself meant to fold you into silence. But the Dumbo octopus feels none of that despair. It was born for it. Its body is soft, gelatinous, perfectly suited to withstand pressures that would crumple submarines. It doesn't need the rush of oxygen-rich water or the comfort of warmth. Its muscles and movements are tuned for patience. In this world, patience is everything. You might imagine such an environment as barren, but it is not. The deep sea is not empty, it is subtle. It hides its abundance in strange shapes and stranger lives. Transparent creatures with glowing organs, worms that shimmer like threads of fire, fish with mouths too large for their bodies, waiting motionless for decades to snatch a passing meal. The Dumbo octopus lives among these others, not as a predator ruling its kingdom, but as one quiet thread in a vast tapestry. It hunts differently than the octopuses you know. Those of the shallow reefs dart with speed, snatch crabs with sudden arms, flash colors to confuse their prey. The Dumbo octopus has no need for such theater. Instead, it drifts downward, wings pulsing gently, and when it finds a worm or a snail floating in the water, it engulfs it whole. No drama, no ink cloud, just a soft embrace of arms and webbing, and the food is gone. Efficiency in its most delicate form. Perhaps this is why the Dumbo octopus feels more like a dream than an animal. There is no violence in its movements, no rush. Watching it is like watching a thought wander slowly across your mind, impossible to catch, but impossible to ignore. And yet, for all its strangeness, for all its beauty, the Dumbo octopus has been seen only rarely. Most people alive today will never glimpse one outside of a screen. Even scientists spend careers chasing shadows of it, waiting for a lucky hour when the cameras of a deep-sea rover catch its faint silhouette. Each sighting is treasured, archived, played over and over again as proof that it lives, proof that it was there, if only for a moment. In 1999, a research submersible recorded one in the wild. It drifted into view, fins flapping like ears, arms trailing like a gown, and then with one silent motion it vanished back into blackness. The scientists watching could only laugh in disbelief, not because it was funny, but because sometimes wonder overwhelms you into laughter, because sometimes the only response to the impossible is joy. Imagine being there, sitting in a small submarine, windows framed by darkness, waiting for hours with nothing but static and the hum of the machine. And then suddenly it appears, a being you've only seen in sketches, hovering before you like a ghost. How would you react? Would you press forward, desperate for more? Or would you sit frozen, afraid that the smallest movement might disturb the miracle? The Dumbo octopus does not care who is watching. It has no performance, no mask. It is itself, with or without us. That perhaps is the core of its mystery. It belongs to a world we cannot reach easily, a world that does not depend on our gaze to be real. For all of history it lived unnoticed, carrying on its quiet life in a theater of dark water. Only now with our machines do we peer into its shadows, and still it remains mostly hidden. Why does that move us so deeply? Why do we feel awe at an octopus with ears instead of dismissing it as a curiosity? The answer might be simple: because we have so few mysteries left. The Earth feels charted, explained, exposed. But in the Dumbo octopus we glimpse a reminder that life can still surprise us, that the deep still holds secrets we cannot imagine. And perhaps more than that, it forces us to confront something about ourselves. We like to believe that survival requires strength, competition, dominance. Yet here is an animal that survives by softness, by drifting, by patience. It does not battle for territory or flash bright colors to scare rivals. It floats, waiting for what the ocean will bring. And somehow that is enough. You sit with that thought. In the deepest dark of the planet, where existence itself is hard, a delicate creature continues without urgency, without violence, without spectacle. It does not need to conquer its world, it only needs to belong to it. There is a kind of peace in that. A peace we rarely feel above the waves, where noise and light chase us every day. Here, in the company of the Dumbo octopus, you begin to understand the ocean differently, not as a place of terror or emptiness, but as a sanctuary for lives that do not resemble ours at all. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself floating there beside it, the water heavy but silent, no landmarks, no horizon, only the endless black. And then a small movement, the soft pulsing of fins. The Dumbo octopus glides past you unbothered, unaware. For just a moment you share its world. For just a moment the impossible feels close enough to touch. And then it is gone again, slipping into darkness. You are left with nothing but memory and the strange ache of wonder. That is the Dumbo octopus, not a monster, not a myth, something gentler, something quieter, and perhaps something far more enduring. The Dumbo octopus is not alone in its kingdom of dark water. Though it may seem solitary, drifting as if it were the only living thing in existence, the truth is that the deep sea is full of quiet neighbors. Not in crowds, not in the frantic swarms of fish that shimmer near the surface, but in whispers. A single lanternfish here pulsing its faint light, a translucent shrimp there carrying its own flickering glow. The deep is not barren. It is a city of shadows where every inhabitant glimmers in its own strange way, too far apart to form streets, too spread out to resemble crowds, but together creating something vast, alive and unending. It is in this cathedral of distance that the Dumbo octopus drifts, small and pale, its two fins fanning gently. Unlike its shallow relatives, it has no ink sac to confuse predators. It cannot sprint away with bursts of speed. Its defenses are not loud or dramatic. Instead, it relies on invisibility, its quiet, unhurried existence making it less a target and more a ghost. Predators here are rare but merciless, a passing shark, a long-nosed fish with teeth like needles. To survive in this place is not to fight but to vanish, to move in such a way that you are almost never noticed at all. And yet despite that invisibility humans have noticed, we always notice. From the moment we first dipped nets into the deep, pulling up creatures so strange they seemed monstrous, we have been obsessed with what lies below. But the Dumbo octopus is a special case, not because of its danger it has none, not because of its size it is small, but because of its strangeness. The way it seems to float with grace in a place where everything else struggles. The way it looks, against all reason, almost cute. Cute is not a word we often attach to deep-sea life. We think of sharp teeth, swollen jaws, grotesque shapes molded by pressure and hunger. But the Dumbo octopus disrupts that expectation. Its fins, rounded like ears, give it a soft, almost comical silhouette. Its arms spread beneath it in flowing arcs, delicate as fabric. It does not startle us with menace, it startles us with gentleness. When scientists first encountered it, they struggled to describe it. And so, perhaps inevitably, they named it with whimsy. Dumbo, a reference to the animated elephant with oversized ears who learned to fly. The name stuck because names are like anchors, and once one drops, it is hard to lift it again. Yet beneath that whimsy, beneath the charm, lies something deeper. A creature perfectly adapted to its impossible world. Think of its skin soft and flexible so the crushing weight of the deep does not shatter it. Think of its fins gentle and slow but efficient, conserving energy in a place where meals are rare. Think of its arms lined with small suckers, not for tearing prey apart but for holding softly to what drifts past. Everything about it whispers of patience. Everything about it speaks of survival through stillness. And then think of its world again. A realm without sunlight where the only illumination comes from creatures themselves, tiny sparks, ghostly flickers, chemical lanterns glowing faint in the dark. Here the Dumbo octopus floats in silence, a pale silhouette in a world that does not care for silhouettes at all. It is not designed to impress us, it is not designed to be seen. And yet when it is, when our cameras catch it by chance, the effect is overwhelming. Because here is the truth, we did not expect softness in the deep. We did not expect beauty, we imagined monsters, and instead we found this delicate wanderer. It breaks something inside us, a quiet assumption, an unspoken certainty that the unknown is always frightening, always sharp. The Dumbo octopus suggests otherwise. It suggests that even in the most inhospitable corners of Earth, gentleness survives. Scientists who encounter it often describe their voices trembling. They speak more softly, almost reverently. Some even laugh, not from mockery but from disbelief. Because what can you do when the impossible appears floating gently on the screen in front of you? You laugh or you fall silent. Either way, you feel small. And isn't that the real gift of creatures like this? Not just the data they provide, not just the notes we scribble about their size, their diet, their behavior. The gift is in what they do to us. The Dumbo octopus reminds us of how little we know, of how vast the world is even beneath our feet, of how much mystery remains in a time when mystery feels scarce. You begin to sense the weight of that. Imagine yourself once more sinking, past the last glow of the surface, past the fading silhouettes of fish, past the reach of blue into pure black. You descend mile after mile until there is nothing but the hum of your own breath, the thrum of your own heart. And then in that endless dark it appears, small, fragile, fins outstretched like wings, a Dumbo octopus drifting as if it had been waiting just for you. For a moment you forget the crushing pressure, the cold, the distance from the world above. You forget everything except this, a meeting that feels less like observation and more like communion. A quiet exchange between two lives who will never truly understand each other, but who, for a heartbeat, share the same dark space. Then it moves on as it always does, and you remain behind, holding the memory, holding the mystery. Perhaps that is the true nature of the Dumbo octopus, to remind us that not all encounters end in answers. Some end only in wonder, some end in silence, and that silence stays with you long after the creature has vanished into the abyss. The Dumbo octopus does not need your attention to survive. It does not need your awe, but you need its mystery. Because without such mysteries, the world would feel smaller. Without them, the ocean would be just water. With them, the ocean becomes what it truly is, a place where imagination and reality meet. The Dumbo octopus is alive, and for now that is enough. You've imagined the Dumbo octopus as delicate, a soft little ghost drifting through the abyss, harmless and whimsical like something drawn from a storybook. And that picture is true but not complete, because the deep ocean does not permit weakness. Nothing survives here without adaptation, without some sharp edge hidden inside the softness. The first broken assumption is this: the Dumbo octopus is not fragile. It only looks that way through our eyes. We see its rounded fins, its slow fluttering, its small size, and we project gentleness. But in reality, this creature is honed by an environment so extreme that almost no other life could endure it. It is not fragile, it is resilient. It thrives in a place where temperatures hover near freezing, where pressure stacks against its body like the weight of mountains, where food can vanish for weeks at a time. Think of that for a moment. Imagine you were dropped 4,000 meters down. The pressure would crush your lungs before you even drew a breath. Your bones would snap, your blood would foam, you would dissolve into the sea like a whispered word. But the Dumbo octopus, it moves there with ease. Its tissues are soft, gelatinous, almost boneless, designed not to resist the pressure but to yield to it. It survives not by being strong in the way we understand strength, but by refusing to break at all. And then consider its hunger. We like to picture it floating peacefully, plucking a passing worm now and then like a monk content with crumbs. But hunger in the deep is not peaceful. Hunger is constant. Every particle of food that drifts down from above, the snow of dead plankton, the fragments of fish, becomes precious. To miss one meal can mean days of waiting. To miss too many means death. The Dumbo octopus cannot afford to be whimsical. It is a predator. A quiet one, yes, but a predator all the same. Its arms curl around prey, its webbing closes like a net, and the soft body you thought of as gentle becomes a consuming trap. You imagined cuteness. Instead, picture efficiency. A body that wastes nothing, a hunter that hunts without flourish, a life shaped by scarcity. That is the real Dumbo octopus. And then there is reproduction, another broken assumption. Most animals you know mate in cycles, return to the task season after season. The Dumbo octopus cannot risk such luxury. It lives in a world too unpredictable, too empty to wait for the right conditions. So it carries its eggs inside its body, dozens of them at different stages of development, ready to be laid whenever the chance comes. At any moment, if food is available, if safety appears, a Dumbo octopus can bring new life into the world. This is not romance, it is strategy. A strategy forged by hardship, not whimsy. There is something unsettling about this, isn't there? The creature you imagined as soft and innocent is, in fact, a master of survival, not by fighting, not by hiding alone, but by bending its very biology to the demands of the abyss. It is alien in its patience, alien in its resilience. It reminds you that nature's kindness is often just adaptation in disguise. And here is another broken assumption. You think of the deep sea as silent, lifeless, empty, but the deep sea is not still. It is alive with strange rhythms. Currents roll like invisible rivers. Sediment drifts down like snow that never melts. Small creatures pulse and glow, their lights flickering on and off in silent conversations we do not understand. The Dumbo octopus exists inside this hidden chorus, shaped by forces you cannot see. It is not floating in nothingness. It is floating in a world more complex than we can yet measure. We imagine the abyss as a void. The Dumbo octopus proves it is not a void at all. And maybe the most unsettling truth of all, for every Dumbo octopus we have glimpsed, there are countless more we never will. We know so little of their numbers, their migrations, their lifespans. Some scientists believe they may live for years, perhaps even decades. Others suggest they may drift unseen for only a short span before vanishing into the mouths of predators. We do not know, we cannot know, because our visits to their world are brief, clumsy, infrequent. We lower our cameras, our rovers, our submarines, and we glimpse shadows. Then we retreat, and in our absence their lives continue without us. That should unsettle you. That should break something in the neat picture of discovery you carry. We like to believe the ocean is ours to study, that with enough machines, enough money, enough time, we will map it all. But the Dumbo octopus is a reminder that the sea is larger than our reach, that it holds secrets we may never unlock. That mystery does not dissolve just because we want it to. So look again at the Dumbo octopus, not as a cartoon, not as a mascot, not as something to charm you. Look at it as what it really is, a survivor, a strategist. A creature that has solved the riddle of living in a place we can barely endure. Its softness is not weakness, its strangeness is not whimsy. It is what survival looks like when sculpted by the deep. And here is the strangest thought of all. Perhaps we envy it, not its darkness, not its solitude, but its clarity. The Dumbo octopus does not question its place. It does not wonder what it means to belong. It is perfectly adapted to its world, perfectly at home in the silence. We, who map and measure and hunger for understanding, are the ones who feel out of place. That is the paradox the Dumbo octopus leaves you with. A creature so strange, so alien, so unlike us, and yet in some quiet way more at peace than we are. The next time you imagine it, fins flapping gently, body drifting in the black, remember this. It is not just cute, it is not just a curiosity. It is a mirror reflecting back our assumptions, breaking them and leaving us with questions we cannot answer. What is survival if not this? What is strength if not softness that cannot be broken? The Dumbo octopus drifts, and in its drifting it unsettles you. You were taught, perhaps without even noticing it, that survival belongs to the strongest. That life is a competition, that the fastest hunter, the fiercest fighter, the cleverest strategist will always win. We project that story onto animals, onto history, onto ourselves. But then comes the Dumbo octopus, a creature with no speed, no weapons, no clever tricks to show, and somehow it lives. This is the first fracture in intuition. It should not survive here, not in the abyss, not where food is scarce and predators lurk in silence. And yet it does, not by being stronger, but by being something else entirely. By being so perfectly adapted that survival requires no contest, no battle, no dominance at all. It thrives not because it is the strongest, but because it has become something so specific, so refined, that it no longer competes on the same terms as others. Its body is soft because softness is an answer. Pressure presses from every side, thousands of pounds per square inch, but what can pressure break if there is nothing rigid to snap? Its movements are slow because slowness is an answer. Calories are rare, food unpredictable, so speed would be waste. Instead, patience becomes the strategy. Its life cycle is fluid because fluidity is an answer. It carries eggs in different stages, ready to release them whenever the moment comes. It does not wait for seasons, does not gamble on the uncertain rhythm of chance. It is always prepared. The Dumbo octopus defies our simple story of survival. It shows us that weakness, when paired with adaptation, becomes strength. That fragility, when shaped by necessity, becomes resilience. It breaks the clean categories we use to understand life: predator or prey, strong or weak, dominant or submissive. In its quiet drifting, it resists our need to label. And in resisting, it unsettles us. Because here is another fracture in your thinking. You imagine the deep sea as timeless, as still, as a place where nothing much happens. But the deep is not still. It is alive with movements too slow for our eyes to notice, too vast for our timelines to hold. The Dumbo octopus does not measure life in minutes or hours. It measures in patience, in long stretches of drifting, in waiting for food that may not come today or tomorrow or even next week. Its life is not rushed because the deep is not rushed. Try to picture this. Imagine a single day in the life of the Dumbo octopus. If you followed it with your human impatience, you would see almost nothing. Hours of floating, fins pulsing gently, arms trailing in the black, a pause to consume a small worm, an adjustment of direction, and then back to the drift. You might grow restless, you might say nothing is happening, but that is only because your eyes are trained for the quick, for speed, for bursts, for events. The Dumbo octopus is not an event. It is a presence. It teaches you that life does not need to be loud to endure. This is where another intuition breaks, the assumption that life must be visible to be real. The Dumbo octopus lives in near invisibility in a world without witnesses. It may live its entire life without ever encountering a human gaze. No applause, no recognition, and yet it lives fully without hesitation, without lack. It does not need to be seen to be alive. We, on the other hand, we crave visibility. We want to be known, acknowledged, recorded. Our lives feel unfinished without someone else to see them. And so when we encounter the Dumbo octopus, something inside us stirs. We realize that a life can be complete in the dark. That existence does not need an audience. That being is enough. But this recognition is not comfortable. It cracks open the way we think about meaning. If an animal can live and die in total obscurity, untouched by eyes, what does that say about our own hunger for attention? What does it say about the meaning we assign to being noticed? Perhaps this is why the Dumbo octopus unsettles us even as it charms us. It contradicts the stories we tell about strength, about survival, about visibility. It does not fit. It is too soft to be strong, too slow to be safe, too hidden to matter, and yet it thrives. And then there is the matter of scale. We imagine our world in terms of landscapes, of cities, of skies. But the Dumbo octopus lives in a vertical empire, a column of water stretching miles deep. To it, the ground is not the seafloor, not always. Sometimes it is suspended in the middle, nowhere near bottom or surface, living in a vertical world where directions blur. Up and down lose meaning when every movement is floating. Its home is not a fixed place, it is the water itself. This too breaks us. We want coordinates, landmarks, borders, but the Dumbo octopus lives without them. It drifts through a world defined not by walls but by vastness, not by edges but by endlessness. Its map is patience, its compass is hunger, its home is wherever the drift carries it. And that perhaps is the most alien thing about it, not its fins, not its ears, not its deep-sea solitude, but its relationship to the world, fluid, patient, without borders, without clocks, a way of living that feels impossible to us but is natural to it. What does that say about us then? That we are creatures of lines and walls, of maps and schedules, while it is a creature of vastness. That we are restless, always measuring progress, while it drifts unmeasured and survives. That we need to see and be seen, while it vanishes into the dark unseen and is no less real. The Dumbo octopus is not just a curiosity of biology. It is a contradiction to human intuition. It breaks the neat story of strength, of time, of meaning. It whispers a different story, that life can endure without speed, without spectacle, without eyes to watch it. That survival is not about dominance, but about harmony with what is. And perhaps that is the deepest fracture of all. Because if the Dumbo octopus is right, if survival is softness, if time is patience, if meaning is not in being seen, then maybe our own stories of strength, time, and meaning are less solid than we thought. The Dumbo octopus floats in the abyss, and in its drifting, it breaks you open. The Dumbo octopus is strange, because it refuses to settle into one role. You want it to be fragile, but it is. You want it to be comical, but it is. You want it to be a monster, but it is. The Dumbo octopus slips out of every category you try to pin it into. It is soft but unbreakable, small but vast in implication, alien but somehow familiar. This is what unsettles you most. It breaks your categories. When you first heard of it, you may have smiled, an octopus with ears. The name alone felt playful, but the deeper you go, the more you realize that this playfulness is only the surface. Beneath it lies a creature that is serious, almost solemn in the way it inhabits the abyss. Its strangeness is not whimsy, it is necessity. Every soft tissue, every delicate fin, every choice of movement is a solution, carved by time, to an environment that would destroy almost anything else. Here is the paradox. The Dumbo octopus looks delicate because it has mastered pressure. Its body yields so the abyss cannot break it. It looks slow because it has mastered hunger. Its movements conserve energy so it endures scarcity. It looks solitary because it has mastered distance. The vastness of the deep does not isolate it, it frees it. When you sit with that, the intuition cracks further. You thought survival belonged to dominance, but here is survival through yielding. You thought the deep was barren, but here is abundance hidden in subtle forms. You thought visibility was meaning, but here is meaning without witness. It forces you to ask, what else do we misunderstand? Think about its reproduction again. The Dumbo octopus does not wait for perfect timing. It does not store its future in fragile cycles. Instead, it carries eggs in many stages, always ready, always flexible. It is as if the creature has abandoned the idea of planning altogether. Instead, it accepts uncertainty, and in that acceptance, it flourishes. That should not feel alien, it should feel familiar. Because isn't our own survival tied not to perfect planning, but to the ability to adapt when everything shifts? But we resist that truth. We build calendars, schedules, expectations. We cling to the idea that order alone saves us. The Dumbo octopus reminds us that flexibility is stronger than order, that patience is stronger than speed. And then there is its solitude. We imagine loneliness as suffering, as a lack. But for the Dumbo octopus, solitude is not a wound. It is simply the shape of life. It may live years without seeing another of its kind. Imagine that. Imagine your own life stretched in silence year upon year, without a mirror, without a voice, without a face to meet. Would you not go mad? Would you not break under the weight of that isolation? But the Dumbo octopus does not break. It drifts untroubled. Its life is not diminished by solitude, because solitude is not absence for it, it is the world itself. It does not long for more. It does not ache for what it does not have. It is whole in its aloneness. And that, more than anything, splinters your human intuition. Because we cannot imagine wholeness without connection, and yet the Dumbo octopus embodies it. It teaches by existing that solitude is not always emptiness. Sometimes it is simply presence. So the Dumbo octopus is fragile but resilient, solitary but whole, strange but adapted, whimsical but solemn. A creature that bends contradiction into a way of being. And the more you think about it, the more you feel the ground shifting beneath your assumptions, not just about it, but about yourself. What if strength is not force? What if meaning is not recognition? What if life does not need speed, visibility, or companionship to be complete? The Dumbo octopus drifts through the abyss as if it is asking you these questions. Not aloud, of course, not in words, but in the silence of its presence you hear them all the same. And the silence itself is worth noticing, because when we watch animals we often project noise onto them. We imagine the roar of a lion, the chatter of dolphins, the songs of birds, but the Dumbo octopus has no song, no call, no roar. Its communication, if it has one, is hidden from us. It is a life without spectacle, and still it is enough. Perhaps that is what unsettles us most of all, that a life can be enough without drama, that existence can be whole without performance, that drifting through black water, unnoticed, unfought, uncelebrated, can still be a full life. When you see the Dumbo octopus, you cannot help but feel that truth pressing against your chest. You want to resist it. You want to believe that meaning must be louder, brighter, more visible. But in its quiet way, the Dumbo octopus proves otherwise. And so it is not just an animal. It is a lesson. Not a lesson it intends to teach, not one it knows it carries, but a lesson we cannot avoid once we witness it, that our categories are fragile, that our intuitions mislead us, that life is larger than the stories we tell about it. The Dumbo octopus drifts, and in its drifting it undoes you. It shows you the cracks in your thinking, the fractures in your certainty. It does not fill them with answers, it only leaves you with questions. And maybe that is its greatest gift, not knowledge, but mystery. Because mystery has weight. Mystery keeps the world alive. Mystery reminds us that not everything bends to our categories, not everything fits into the lines we draw. And so, when you imagine the Dumbo octopus again, fins flapping gently, body soft against the black, you will feel two things at once. Wonder, yes, but also unease, because it is not simply cute, it is not simply fragile, it is not simply anything. It is contradiction, and it refuses to be resolved. That refusal lingers. That refusal becomes the silence you carry with you. The Dumbo octopus does not break the rules of the abyss. It is the abyss made flesh. For all its mystery, the Dumbo octopus does not belong to fantasy. It belongs to science, to taxonomy, to the careful work of names and categories. The Dumbo octopus is not a single creature, but a group, a genus called Grimpotuthis. At least 17 species are known, though known is a generous word. Most of them are identified from single specimens, a body pulled up by a trawl net or glimpsed once in the dark eye of a camera. Many of those species have never been seen alive again. 17 species, perhaps more, each one a variation on the theme of soft body, rounded fins and webbed arms. Some are small enough to rest in your hands, others stretch to lengths of more than a meter. Their colors shift from pale white to soft pink to deep brown. Some look almost translucent, their bodies ghostly in the light of a submersible. Others seem heavier, with thicker mantles and more muscular fins. And yet for all this, they are rarely seen at all. Most records of Grimpotuthis come from chance. A remotely operated vehicle surveying the seafloor for oil companies. A trawling expedition dragging nets across the deep, pulling up whatever comes. A marine biologist watching hours of black water on a screen until, for a few fleeting minutes, a Dumbo octopus drifts into view. It is not studied the way we study dolphins or sharks or reef fish. It is studied through fragments, through moments, through the luck of encounter. Its anatomy, though, gives us clues. Like other octopuses, it has 8 arms, but here they are joined by a delicate web, a film of tissue that stretches between them like a cloak. When it spreads its arms wide, the web forms a shape almost like an umbrella or a net or a cape. This webbing is not decoration. It is how the Dumbo octopus traps its prey. A worm, a small crustacean, even a snail drifting in the dark. Once caught in that living net, there is no escape. The octopus folds the web around it and swallows whole. The fins, of course, are what make it unmistakable. Rounded and ear-like, they sprout from the mantle and pulse slowly, lifting and lowering in steady rhythm. They are not strong, but they are efficient. In the abyss, efficiency matters more than strength. Muscles cost energy, and energy is scarce. So the Dumbo octopus has evolved a way of moving that costs little, wasting almost nothing. Fins for gliding, arms for steering, patience for everything else. Its beak is small, delicate compared to its shallow cousins. Its suckers are reduced in size and number, not made for crushing shells or dragging prey from rocks, but for holding softly. In every part of its body you see the same story. An animal shaped not for aggression, but for survival in a world where excess is punished. And then there is its skin. Unlike the dramatic skin of shallow water octopuses capable of shifting color and texture in bursts of camouflage, the Dumbo octopus does not flash displays. Its skin can shift slightly from pale to darker tones, but it does not perform. In the deep, there is no need for performance. No predators to dazzle, no rivals to intimidate. Camouflage here is not color, it is invisibility, silence, patience. We know a little of how it reproduces, though even that remains guesswork. A female Dumbo octopus carries many eggs at once, each at a different stage. Some are small and undeveloped, others nearly ready. This staggering means that whenever the conditions are right, she can release them, attaching them to rocks or coral on the seafloor. There is no synchronized season, no gathering of mates in great numbers. Life is too uncertain for that. Instead, reproduction is opportunistic, flexible, ready at any moment. And once she has released her eggs, she dies. Like many octopuses, the Dumbo is semiporous, reproducing once, then fading. A life of drifting patience, ending in a single release of the future. The hatchlings, when they emerge, are already miniature versions of the adult. Tiny, delicate, yet complete. They begin their lives in solitude as their mother did, drifting into the dark with no guidance but instinct. The details are fascinating, but what is most striking is how little we truly know. How long do they live? No one is certain. How far do they migrate? No one can say. Do they communicate with one another? Do they ever gather? Or do they live their whole lives in isolation, never meeting another of their kind? Each of these questions lingers unanswered, suspended like the octopus itself in the water. The evidence we have is sparse, but it stacks into a picture, an animal built for survival through patience, through softness, through quiet. It reminds us that evolution is not only about claws and teeth, but about stillness, about surrender, about yielding to the environment until you fit it so perfectly that nothing can break you. And beyond biology, there is the evidence of our encounters, the videos captured by rovers, the astonishment in the voices of scientists. Watch one and you will see it, the sudden intake of breath, the laughter that comes not from mockery but from awe. The Dumbo octopus drifts into view, fins flapping gently, and everything we expect of the deep dissolves. It is not monstrous, it is not grotesque, it is delicate, and that delicacy is real. Science gives us the framework, taxonomy, anatomy, reproduction, behavior, but awe gives us the connection. Without awe, the Dumbo octopus would be a set of measurements, a specimen in a jar. With awe, it becomes what it truly is, a reminder of the mystery still alive in our world. That is the evidence we carry, the 17 known species, the glimpses caught by cameras, the anatomy shaped by necessity, the adaptations written into its body. Each piece is a thread, fragile on its own, but together weaving a picture not of fantasy, not of whimsy, but of reality, a reality so strange it feels like a dream. The Dumbo octopus exists, and that existence is enough to reshape the way you see the world. The Dumbo octopus is not an isolated wonder. It is one thread in the fabric of a vast and alien ecosystem. The deep ocean, a place that covers more of the earth than any forest or desert or mountain range combined. We speak of the abyss as though it were a single location, but in truth, it is a realm that stretches across most of the planet. More than 60% of the Earth's surface lies under these dark waters, at depths beyond the reach of sunlight. And it is here, in this silent kingdom, that the Dumbo octopus makes its life. The environment itself is more alien than most people realize. Temperatures hover near freezing, around 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. Pressure is immense, hundreds of times greater than what you feel at sea level. For us, such a place is deadly. For the Dumbo octopus, it is ordinary. Its body does not resist the pressure, it yields to it. Its tissues are soft, its bones absent, its form perfectly suited to a world where resistance would mean destruction. But the greatest challenge of the abyss is not the cold or the pressure, it is the emptiness. Food is scarce here, arriving mostly as marine snow, a gentle rain of organic particles drifting down from the upper layers of the ocean. Tiny corpses of plankton, fragments of algae, pieces of fish, flakes of waste. It falls slowly, endlessly, and in this fragile rain the ecosystem survives. For scavengers on the seafloor, marine snow is everything. For predators like the Dumbo octopus, it is not enough. It must hunt what small animals wander here, what lives off the snow itself. The Dumbo octopus feeds on worms, amphipods, copepods, tiny creatures often transparent that drift in the water column or crawl along the seafloor. With its webbed arms, it envelops them, swallowing whole. It does not tear, does not shred. It consumes delicately, as though life in the abyss has no room for wasted energy. But predators still exist in the dark. Sharks patrol, some with bodies shaped like needles, others with lanterns glowing from their bellies. Fish with jaws too large for their heads wait motionless for unlucky prey. Even giant squid and larger octopuses pass through these waters, shadows in the black. Against them, the Dumbo octopus has no speed, no weapons. Its defense is its obscurity. It is too small, too delicate, too fleeting to be worth much notice. In the abyss, invisibility is survival. And yet the Dumbo octopus is not insignificant. It is a quiet link in the food chain. It feeds on the drifting life below, and in turn, it feeds the larger predators. When it dies, its body becomes part of the rain of organic matter, sinking to the seafloor where crabs and worms and microbes devour it. Nothing is wasted in the abyss. Every life is recycled, every death becomes food for another. In this way, the Dumbo octopus is not an anomaly, but a participant in a system both fragile and immense. To study such a world is nearly impossible. We have explored only a fraction of it. Less than 1% of the deep sea has been directly observed. Our machines descend with cameras and lights, but even they disturb what they seek to record. The glare of a submersible may frighten creatures into hiding. The hum of a motor may drive them away. To truly see the Dumbo octopus as it is in its unbroken solitude is rare. Every image we have is precious, not just as data, but as a moment of connection with a world we can barely reach. And still, the glimpses are enough to reshape our understanding, because the Dumbo octopus shows us that the deep is not barren. It is alive, subtle, complex. Its ecosystem is not empty but balanced on the edge of scarcity. Every creature there has solved the puzzle of survival in its own way. Some use light, glowing organs to lure prey or confuse predators. Some use sized jaws stretched wide to swallow whatever drifts past. Some use patience, waiting years for a single opportunity. And the Dumbo octopus, it uses gentleness, it yields, it drifts, it adapts. In that sense, the Dumbo octopus is not just another animal in the abyss. It is a symbol of the abyss itself, a place that is not violent chaos, not a desert of death, but a quiet system of balance and endurance. Yet for all we know, more remains unknown. How many Dumbo octopuses live in the world's oceans? We cannot say. Their distribution is wide. They have been found in waters across the globe, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the tropics to the poles. But their lives are so hidden, so scattered, that we have no clear picture of their abundance. They may be rare, they may be common. They may be both common in their world but rare to us. And this uncertainty is part of the evidence itself. The Dumbo octopus teaches us that mystery remains even in the age of satellites and maps. The deep sea cannot be tamed by technology alone. We are visitors there, brief and clumsy, peering into a world that has always existed without us. Think of that for a moment. As you listen, the Dumbo octopus is drifting somewhere, not as myth, not as symbol, but as fact. Its fins are pulsing, its arms are trailing, it is feeding or waiting or moving in silence. It has no knowledge of you, no need of your attention, and yet in knowing that it exists, you feel your own world widen. This is the true stack of evidence, not just the biology, not just the taxonomy, not just the rare footage on a screen, but the way the Dumbo octopus forces you to see differently, to understand that survival can take many forms, to see that mystery is not gone from Earth, to accept that our intuitions fail us but wonder does not. The Dumbo octopus is alive. It is part of an ecosystem larger than imagination. It is proof that the abyss is not empty. And for us, it is evidence that the unknown still waits in the dark. To know the Dumbo octopus is to know how little we belong in its world. Every encounter we've had with it has been borrowed time, borrowed vision, stolen glimpses from a place that does not welcome us. And yet we try, we have always tried, because the deep sea resists us and resistance invites obsession. Think of the first tools. Weighted nets dragged across miles of seafloor, scraping up whatever was unlucky enough to be caught. Scientists in the early days of deep-sea exploration would haul these nets to the surface, open them and spill a mess of strange bodies onto the deck. Fish with eyes too large, shrimp that glowed and then dimmed, gelatinous forms collapsing under the sudden lack of pressure. Among them sometimes a Dumbo octopus, soft, delicate, half-ruined by the journey up. Enough to prove it existed, but not enough to tell us what its life truly looked like. This is the paradox of studying the deep. The very act of reaching for it destroys it. The Dumbo octopus, designed to yield under pressure, collapses when pressure is gone. Its tissues rupture, its form distorts. A creature perfect in its own world becomes fragile in ours. How do you study something that cannot survive your gaze? So we turn to machines. Submersibles, first crude, then robotic. In the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, engineers built vessels that could dive deeper and deeper, carrying cameras, lights, instruments. They moved slowly, lumbering in the black, but even so they opened windows into a realm we had never seen alive. And there, occasionally, briefly, the Dumbo octopus appeared. Not in swarms, not in predictable places, always as if by chance. A small shape drifting into the cone of a headlight, fins pulsing, arms trailing, a pale body floating in the void. Sometimes it lingered, Sometimes it vanished almost instantly, disappearing into darkness as if embarrassed to have been seen. Scientists inside the submersibles would press their faces to the glass, whispering, laughing, holding their breath. Because when you are surrounded by nothing, and then something appears, it feels like a visitation. One sighting in the Pacific Ocean, more than 3,000 meters deep, recorded a Dumbo octopus dancing, spreading its arms, turning gently in the current as if performing for the camera. But of course it was no performance. It was simply moving, simply being. The performance was ours, the way we projected meaning onto its drifting, the way we saw elegance where it saw only survival. That is the human tendency, perhaps, to see poetry in what is only necessity. And yet, is that projection wrong? Maybe not. Because poetry is how we translate the alien into something we can hold. Today, most of our glimpses come from remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs. Machines tethered by cables lowered from ships above, armed with cameras that record the darkness. The Dumbo octopus appears in these feeds sometimes unexpected, uninvited. A small miracle drifting into our machine's gaze. Each sighting is logged, catalogued, preserved in archives. Scientists replay them endlessly, studying the movements, the size, the texture of the skin. What does it eat? How does it swim? How does it behave when no one is watching? The recordings give us hints, but never the whole truth. Because every camera, every light, every machine is still an intrusion. The abyss is not meant to be lit. Our lights change the behavior of the creatures we observe. Our machines hum with alien vibrations. Our presence is never neutral. The Dumbo octopus we see is always the Dumbo octopus, disturbed, illuminated, caught off guard. The real Dumbo octopus, the one that drifts unseen in the true dark, is still hidden. And yet, what choice do we have? We are creatures of sight. We need to see to understand, even if our seeing changes what we seek. There is a humility in this. To realize that our science, advanced as it is, still stumbles in the deep, that every answer is partial, that every glimpse is only a shard of a larger whole. We are used to thinking of science as mastery, as knowledge pinned down and made certain. But the Dumbo octopus resists mastery. It remains partly unknown, partly untouchable, even when captured on the highest resolution cameras. And maybe that is why we love it, because it reminds us that science is not just answers but questions. That wonder is not erased by knowledge but deepened. Each sighting gives us data, fin movement, arm span, prey consumed. But each sighting also leaves us with questions. How many are there? Where do they go? What do they do in the long stretches between our machines? The evidence stacks, but it does not close, it opens. There is something beautiful in that incompleteness. A reminder that we are not at the center of every story, that there are lives unfolding in silence, in darkness, with no need for our eyes. The Dumbo octopus drifts, and in its drifting it teaches us humility. But humans are not good at humility. We want more. We build better machines, deeper submersibles, cameras that can see in near total darkness. We plan expeditions, send ships to the remotest corners of the ocean. And always in the backs of our minds we hope, maybe this time we will see one. Maybe this time the Dumbo octopus will drift into view again. Because we cannot let it go. We cannot accept the thought of a creature so strange, so delicate, living unseen in the dark. We want it visible, we want it known. We want to bring it into the light, even though it is a being of shadow. And yet every encounter reminds us it does not need our light, it does not need our eyes. The Dumbo octopus has been here for millions of years. It will be here long after us. It is not ours to claim, it is not ours to master. It is only ours to glimpse for a moment before it disappears again into the dark. That is the evidence too, not just biology, not just video footage, but the pattern itself, glimpsed, lost, glimpsed again, a rhythm of encounter and absence, a rhythm that mirrors the deep sea itself, always present but never fully seen. The Dumbo octopus resists us, and in that resistance it becomes even more wondrous. By now, the Dumbo octopus feels less like a single creature and more like a puzzle scattered across decades of research, across oceans, across fragments of encounters that never quite add up to a whole. And yet, when you spread the pieces across the table, when you lean close and study them, a picture emerges. Not complete, never complete, but enough to sense its shape. The first piece is taxonomy. Grimpo-Tuthes, 17 species, perhaps more. each one a variation of the same strange design: soft body, webbed arms, ear-like fins. They are distributed across the globe, from the Atlantic to the Pacific to the Indian Ocean, from polar regions to tropical waters. This wide distribution is evidence of success. A fragile animal does not spread so far, only resilience does. The second piece is anatomy. Every part of its body tells a story of adaptation. Its fins efficient for gliding, its arms webbed into a delicate net for trapping prey, its suckers small and reduced because brute force is unnecessary in the abyss, its soft tissues designed not to resist pressure but to yield to it, its skin capable of minor color shifts but not of flamboyant displays, a body built not for performance but for persistence. The third piece is ecology. The Dumbo octopus is not a curiosity floating in emptiness. It is woven into the food web of the deep, feeding on worms, copepods, crustaceans, feeding larger predators in turn. And when it dies, its body sinks, joining the marine snow, nourishing scavengers on the seafloor. Even in death, it is part of the system, nothing wasted, nothing isolated. The fourth piece is reproduction, a strategy unlike most others. Eggs at different stages, ready to be released whenever conditions allow. A system that abandons the luxury of cycles and replaces it with flexibility. It ensures survival in a place where predictability does not exist. The fifth piece is evidence of encounter. The rare glimpses in nets, in submersibles, in ROV footage, each one reinforcing that it is real, that it is there, that it continues to live unseen. These sightings are not common, not repeatable, not reliable, and yet they happen often enough to prove that the Dumbo octopus is not an anomaly. It is part of the ocean's hidden abundance. And finally, the sixth piece, our reaction. The laughter, the awe, the disbelief of scientists when they see it alive, because it does not fit our script of the deep. We expect menace, we expect grotesque forms, we expect monsters. Instead, we are met with delicacy, with fins like ears, with arms trailing like ribbons, with movements so slow and graceful they look like dancing. The Dumbo octopus does not just exist, it unsettles us by existing differently than we imagined. Piece by piece, the picture sharpens. The Dumbo octopus is not myth, not fantasy, not accident. It is the product of millions of years of evolution, perfectly sculpted for its environment. It is rare but not vanishing, strange but not alone, a symbol of what life can become when pressed by darkness and scarcity. And yet, for all the evidence, for all the pieces on the table, the picture never feels whole. Because there are gaps, how long does it live? We don't know. How many exist across the oceans? We cannot say. Do they gather? Do they communicate? Do they migrate across basins or remain in one place their entire lives? The questions remain open, suspended in the dark like the creatures themselves. The evidence we have is a scaffold, not a structure, enough to show us the outline, not enough to fill the rooms. And perhaps that is the real point. The Dumbo octopus reminds us that science is never final. It is always a work in progress, always incomplete, always reaching further into the dark. Think of the expeditions, ships crossing remote waters, lowering machines into blackness, engineers monitoring pressure gauges, pilots guiding rovers through the abyss, hours of nothing, days of silence, and then suddenly a shape drifting into view, a Dumbo octopus, small, gentle, alive. For a moment the room erupts. Scientists lean closer to the screens, voices rising or spilling over. The moment is recorded, catalogued, preserved, but the feeling cannot be measured. That feeling is evidence too, not of the animal's biology, but of its power, its ability to reach across distance, across species, across worlds, and strike us with wonder, to remind us that even in the 21st century, the Earth has corners we have not illuminated. That discovery is not finished. We live in a world that feels mapped, measured, explained. Satellites orbit overhead, cameras peer into every forest, drones cross every desert, but the ocean keeps its secrets, and the Dumbo octopus is proof that mystery is not gone, only hidden, proof that discovery still exists, waiting not in distant galaxies but beneath our own seas. This is the weight of the evidence, not just scientific data, not just anatomy or behavior, but the reminder that life is larger than us, that the Earth is stranger than we admit, that our intuition, innate and simple, is always incomplete. The Dumbo octopus drifts in the abyss, fins pulsing, body soft against the dark. It does not know we study it. It does not care we wonder at it. It only lives as it has for millions of years. And in its living, it offers us something no machine can give: perspective. The evidence is clear enough. The Dumbo octopus exists. It thrives. It matters. And yet the evidence is also incomplete, reminding us that knowledge itself is a kind of drift. Never final, always moving, always leaving us suspended between what we know and what we don't. And maybe that is the most important evidence of all. Because evidence is not the end of mystery, it is the beginning of it. It is tempting to stop here, isn't it? To leave the Dumbo octopus preserved as a perfect symbol, gentle, drifting, a quiet miracle in the abyss. You could let the story rest in that light, as though the animal were nothing but mystery wrapped in grace. But that would be dishonest, because the Dumbo octopus is not a symbol. It is not here to carry our metaphors, not here to reassure us about mystery or resilience or the poetry of survival. It is an animal, and animals are not kind, they are not cruel, they are not metaphors. They are what they are, and sometimes what they are is far more complicated, far less comforting than the stories we make of them. Take the image you have built so far: a creature drifting peacefully in darkness, feeding gently on worms and snails. A life without violence, a body without armor, a presence without threat. That image comforts you. It reassures you that life can be soft even in harshness, that existence can be gentle even in silence. But look again, watch closely. When the Dumbo octopus feeds, it does not nibble delicately. It engulfs. Its webbed arms spread wide, folding around prey like a living net. There is no escape once you are inside, no struggle worth mentioning. The Dumbo octopus swallows whole, consuming the creature alive. To us, this may still seem gentle, no tearing, no shredding. But to the prey, there is no gentleness. There is only suffocation, digestion, the slow erasure of a life. The Dumbo octopus is not cruel, but neither is it kind. It is a predator like any other. Its survival depends on the death of others. Its drifting grace is only grace to us. To a passing amphipod, it is terror. And what of its solitude? We dressed it in poetry, imagined it as a monk of the abyss, whole in its aloneness. But is that true, or is it only how we see it? We do not know if the Dumbo octopus longs for company. We do not know if it suffers the distance, if it seeks out others of its kind, if it drifts in quiet hunger for something more. Perhaps its solitude is not wholeness, but necessity. Perhaps what we see as peace is only resignation. Our admiration bends the truth. We love the Dumbo octopus because it is strange without being grotesque, because it is alien without being monstrous, because it reflects a gentleness we wish to see in the abyss. But in loving it this way, we distort it. We strip it of what it really is. A creature with hunger, with instincts, with a life built not for our metaphors, but for survival in conditions we can barely imagine. And even the science, even the evidence we stacked so carefully is full of distortions. We see it under the lights of our submersibles, under the gaze of our cameras. But what does that light do to it? Does it flee because of us? Does it change its movement? Do we alter its behavior just by being present? Almost certainly. The Dumbo octopus we watch is not the Dumbo octopus as it truly is. It is the Dumbo octopus caught, disturbed, made visible in ways it did not choose. There is a danger in this. The danger of thinking that what we see is the truth, when in fact it is only a shadow. Our machines are intrusions, our lights are distortions, our observations are always incomplete, and yet we build our stories from them as though they were whole. Even the name itself, Dumbo, a joke, a whimsy, a reference to a cartoon elephant with oversized ears. That name shapes the way we see the animal. It makes us smile before we even meet it. It primes us to see cuteness, to see innocence, to see something childlike. But is that fair? Is that name a reflection of the animal or of us? We have reduced a complex creature to a caricature, a survivor of the abyss reduced to a mascot of whimsy. And perhaps that is the deepest distortion. We cannot meet the Dumbo octopus as itself. We can only meet it through the lenses of our awe, our science, our naming, our metaphors. We cannot resist turning it into something else. So what if we stripped that away? What if we tried, even briefly, to see the Dumbo octopus without wonder, without metaphor, without the comfort of our projections? We would see a soft-bodied mollusk, a cephalopod like many others, 8 arms, reduced suckers, delicate fins, an animal that drifts in darkness, preys on small invertebrates, reproduces once, then dies. A creature that survives because evolution carved it into a form suited for scarcity. Nothing more, nothing less. Not a symbol, not a miracle, not an answer to our questions about meaning, just an animal. And maybe that truth feels colder, less satisfying, less beautiful, but it is also more honest. Because the Dumbo octopus does not need us to make it beautiful. It is what it is, with or without us. This is the counter case, that the Dumbo octopus is not a dream but a fact, not a mirror but a mollusk, not a lesson but a life. And perhaps this honesty matters more than the poetry, because when we see it clearly, stripped of our projections, we remember that the world does not exist to soothe us. The ocean does not exist to give us metaphors. The Dumbo octopus does not exist to remind us of gentleness. It exists for itself. And maybe, just maybe, that makes it even more powerful. Because if beauty survives without needing to be called beautiful, then it is deeper than beauty. If mystery survives without needing to be recognized as mystery, then it is deeper than mystery. If life continues unseen, unknown, uncelebrated, then it is deeper than meaning. The Dumbo octopus is not here for us, and yet, by being itself, it unsettles us more than any metaphor could. There is a risk in mystery, not in mystery itself, but in what we make of it. Because when we encounter something strange, our first impulse is rarely to accept it as it is. Our first impulse is to weave it into a story that suits us, and the Dumbo octopus is no exception. Think of the name again. Dumbo. It sounds soft, harmless, almost comical, a child's word, an animal rebranded as a plush toy. The name creates a lens before we even see the creature. If we had called it something harsher, abyssal ghost octopus, for example, or deep-sea predator squid, would we view it differently? Would we still see cuteness, or would we see menace? Names matter, they tilt perception, and perception shapes the stories we tell. Even the scientists are not immune. Watch footage of researchers encountering a Dumbo octopus in the wild and you'll notice their tone. They gasp, they laugh, they whisper in awe. They are trained observers, but they are also human. Their voices betray not just discovery, but delight. The Dumbo octopus does not enter their notebooks as just another data point. It enters their minds as something enchanting. And enchantment is a distortion, because it makes us forget what the animal is actually doing. When we describe a Dumbo octopus as dancing in the water, we are not describing reality. We are describing how it feels to us. In truth, it is moving its fins, steering its body, adjusting its position in a current, functional movements, nothing more. The dance exists only in our eyes. This is how projection creeps in. A survival strategy becomes elegance. A feeding gesture becomes grace. A biological adaptation becomes a metaphor for patience. None of these are wrong exactly, but none of them are real either. And yet we cannot seem to resist. We want the Dumbo octopus to mean something. We want it to carry mystery for us, to be proof that the world is stranger, gentler, deeper than we imagine. We want it to remind us that the unknown still exists. But in wanting this, we may blur what the Dumbo octopus actually is. The truth is harder, sharper. It is not a guardian of mystery, it is not a symbol of gentleness. It is an opportunistic predator adapted to scarcity. It drifts because energy is scarce, not because drifting is beautiful. It feeds by swallowing whole, not by choosing delicacy. It reproduces opportunistically, not because it carries some secret wisdom, but because life in the abyss demands it. We dress necessity in poetry, but poetry is ours, not the ocean's. And this matters because distortion has consequences. When we turn the Dumbo octopus into a mascot of mystery, we risk forgetting its reality. We risk treating it as spectacle rather than as life. We risk turning science into entertainment. Consider how little funding goes into deep-sea research. Submersibles, expeditions, ROVs, all are expensive, all are difficult, all are competing with other scientific priorities. So when the Dumbo octopus appears, its charm becomes a tool. It captures attention, garners headlines, draws public fascination. The cutest octopus in the world, some call it. a hook for storytelling, a justification for exploration. But hidden inside that charm is compromise. We value it not for what it is, but for what it gives us. Mystery or a marketable story. This is not the fault of the octopus, of course. It drifts, unaware of what we make of it. But it reveals something about us, that we cannot seem to approach the unknown without reshaping it. That even when faced with a life utterly separate from our own, we still insist on folding it back into human narratives. And the Dumbo octopus is only one example. Think of other deep-sea creatures, the anglerfish with its bioluminescent lure. How often is it depicted as a monster, a nightmare of teeth and darkness? And yet to itself it is only an animal shaped by the same forces as everything else. The monster is our invention, the nightmare is our projection. We do this with beauty and we do this with horror. We rarely meet animals as they are. We meet them as reflections of our own fears and desires. So the counter case is this: perhaps the Dumbo octopus is not wondrous. Perhaps it is not mysterious. Perhaps it is simply ordinary in its own context, one more species among millions surviving as best it can. It is wondrous only because we do not live there, because we are outsiders peering in, because its way of life does not mirror ours. And if that is true, then our awe is less about the Dumbo octopus itself and more about us. This does not make awe meaningless, but it does mean that awe can mislead. It can make us think we know when we do not. It can make us romanticize when we should observe. It can make us worship when we should study. Perhaps this is the real danger of mystery, not that we cannot solve it, but that we stop wanting to solve it. We become satisfied with the feeling of not knowing, with the sweetness of wonder, and forget that science is not about leaving things unexplained. Science is about pressing forward, asking harder questions, resisting the comfort of metaphors. The Dumbo octopus challenges us in both directions. It tempts us toward poetry, and it reminds us of reality. It lets us feel awe, but it also demands precision. It shows us that beauty is not the same as truth. So let us speak plainly. The Dumbo octopus is a cephalopod, it is a mollusk, it is a predator. It is fragile in our world, resilient in its own. It is rare to us, but likely common in the deep. It is not ours to name, not ours to project upon, not ours to turn into symbol. It is only itself. And maybe, once we strip away the metaphors, that plainness is more powerful than all the poetry. Because it forces us to accept the animal as it is, not as we want it to be. The Dumbo octopus does not exist to reassure us. It does not exist to unsettle us. It does not exist for us at all. It just exists. We call the Dumbo octopus mysterious. We call it rare. We whisper about how few people have seen it alive, how lucky one must be to catch even a glimpse. But perhaps that word rare is misleading. Perhaps what we really mean is rare to us. Think of it this way: the deep ocean covers most of the planet. Billions of cubic kilometers of water stretching down for miles. Our machines have touched only a fraction of it, less than 1% of the abyss directly observed. In a space that large, any creature can seem rare. Even if there are millions of them, scattered across basins and trenches, the odds of our cameras crossing paths with one are slim. So when we celebrate a sighting of the Dumbo octopus, we may not be celebrating its scarcity. We may only be celebrating our own limitations. We mistake our lack of access for the animal's rarity. And this is not unusual. For centuries, animals have hidden from us simply because we lack the tools to find them. The giant squid, for instance, was once thought to be legend. Sailors told stories of tentacled monsters pulling ships into the deep. Scientists dismissed these stories as exaggerations until in the late 20th century, footage finally confirmed the squid's existence. Not a monster, not a myth. Just another cephalopod common enough in its world, invisible in ours. The Dumbo octopus may be similar, not rare, not mythical, simply hidden, simply beyond the reach of our nets, our lights, our cameras. And if that is true, then what we call mystery may actually be ignorance. This does not lessen the animal, but it does shift the frame. Mystery feels romantic, as though the creature carries some secret that resists discovery. Ignorance feels humbler, as though the secret is only ours, the secret of how little we have managed to see. When scientists analyze trawl data, They find Dumbo octopuses appearing again and again, scattered across oceans, across depths. Not frequent, not abundant, but not absent either. Enough to suggest that they are a stable part of the ecosystem. Enough to suggest that their lives are not exceptional but ordinary in their realm. This is another fracture in our intuition. We want the Dumbo octopus to be extraordinary. We want it to be the rare jewel of the abyss, the elusive symbol of the unknown. But what if it is not extraordinary? What if it is simply one of many, common enough in its world, made rare only by the blindness of ours? Would that make it less meaningful? Here lies the risk. If the Dumbo octopus is common, if it is not rare, if it is not mysterious but simply overlooked, then our fascination with it is revealed for what it is: fascination with ourselves, fascination with our own struggle to see. We are not in awe of the Dumbo octopus, not really. We are in awe of the reminder that there are still things we have not catalogued. That is a harsher truth, a less comfortable one, because it removes the animal from the pedestal we've placed it on. It stops being a symbol of mystery and becomes only an animal, one among millions surviving in its niche. But perhaps that honesty is necessary, because when we treat it as extraordinary, we risk turning it into spectacle. We risk forgetting that it is part of a larger web, no more or less important than the shrimp it eats, the sharks that might eat it, the snow of organic matter that nourishes all. It is not the main character of the abyss. It is only one thread. And yet perhaps that is the real miracle, that the thread matters at all. That in a system so vast, so cold, so silent, a soft-bodied octopus can survive, reproduce, and continue its line. Not because it is extraordinary, but because it is ordinary enough to endure. To call it rare is to make it about us. To call it ordinary is to make it about the ocean. And this, too, is evidence. Not evidence of biology, but evidence of perspective. That our stories about the Dumbo octopus reveal more about human hunger for wonder than they do about the animal itself. Think of how we show it in documentaries, in news articles, in viral clips. Always the rare Dumbo octopus, always the mystery of the Dumbo octopus, always the frame of exception. But imagine if we presented it differently. Imagine if we said, here is one of the many creatures of the deep, not rare, not mysterious, simply adapted. Would we care? Would we click? Would we watch? The uncomfortable answer may be no. We need the promise of rarity to sustain our interest. We need the illusion of mystery to keep our attention. Without those, the Dumbo octopus becomes just another animal, and in our busy, restless lives, just another is too easy to dismiss. So we make it rare, we make it mysterious, we make it what it is not in order to hold it in our gaze. But the ocean does not care for our gaze, it does not need us to hold it, it does not need our stories. The Dumbo octopus would continue whether we called it rare or ordinary, mysterious or simple. It would drift, fade, reproduce, and die in the dark, never once aware that we were debating its meaning. This realization is uncomfortable because it humbles us. It reminds us that our fascination is not universal. It is not truth. It is only human. And yet there is power in that humility. To see the Dumbo octopus not as a miracle, but as a fact. Not as a rare jewel, but as one thread in a tapestry too vast for us to hold. To accept that our wonder is not in the animal itself, but in the act of glimpsing it. The Dumbo octopus is not rare, we are. We are rare in our brief, clumsy encounters with the abyss. We are rare in our fragile machines lowering into pressure we cannot endure. We are rare in our hunger to know what does not need to be known. And so, perhaps, the mystery is not the Dumbo octopus at all. Perhaps the mystery is us. There is another question, sharper than all the rest. Does the Dumbo octopus matter? Not to us it clearly does. It fascinates us, enchants us, unsettles us. It appears in documentaries, in articles, in whispered tones of wonder. But does it matter to the ocean, to the planet, to the vast system in which it drifts? The uncomfortable truth is that the answer may be no. For all our fascination, the Dumbo octopus is not a keystone species. It is not an architect of ecosystems like coral. It does not reshape its environment like kelp forests or beavers or elephants. It is not a dominant predator that keeps balance in a chain like sharks or wolves. It is small, scattered, solitary. It feeds, it is fed upon. It participates, but it does not command. If tomorrow every Dumbo octopus vanished, would the ocean notice? The worms and crustaceans it eats would still be consumed by other predators. The fish and sharks that eat it would find other prey. The rain of organic matter falling to the seafloor would continue, feeding the scavengers and microbes below. The abyss would shift, but only slightly. The wheel would keep turning. This is a humbling thought, because we want every animal to matter in some grand way. We want every creature to hold a secret importance, a hidden role that proves the world would collapse without it. But ecosystems are more flexible, more indifferent than that. They bend, they adapt, they carry on. And so the Dumbo octopus may not be necessary. It may not hold the kind of ecological significance we long to find. It is not a pillar, it is a thread. If cut, the fabric would fray, but it would not fall apart. That does not make it meaningless, but it does force us to reconsider the meaning we project onto it. Perhaps the Dumbo octopus is not a guardian of mystery. Perhaps it is not a symbol of gentleness. Perhaps it is not rare, not vital, not essential. Perhaps it is only itself, a soft-bodied cephalopod drifting in the abyss, one among countless others, fragile in our eyes but ordinary in its own world. And maybe, if we are honest, that should be enough. But honesty is difficult. We hunger for importance. We want life to arrange itself into hierarchies of meaning, with every creature assigned a role in some great drama. We want the Dumbo octopus to be more than it is. And when we say it matters, what we often mean is that it matters to us. Which leads to another question: why does it matter to us? Not because of its ecological role, not because of its abundance. It matters because it feels different, because it breaks the script, because in a place we expect monsters it gives us something delicate, because in a time when mystery feels scarce it reminds us that we do not know everything. It matters not in biology but in psychology, not in ecosystems but in imagination. That is not a scientific answer, it is a human one, but perhaps that is all we have. Still, the cold truth lingers. The Dumbo octopus will not save us. It will not reshape our oceans. It will not stop climate change or restore coral reefs or balance food chains. It will not matter in the ways we usually measure importance. And this is where the counter case lands hardest. The Dumbo octopus matters because we decide it does. Strip away our decision and it drifts unnoticed. Strip away our metaphors and it is only another life form surviving, reproducing, dying. Not less beautiful but less special. Not less alive but less symbolic. This realization can feel like loss. To go from mystery to indifference, from awe to plainness. To accept that the Dumbo octopus does not need us and the ocean does not depend on it. That our fascination may be little more than indulgence. But perhaps loss is clarity. Because when you accept that the Dumbo octopus does not matter in the ways you want it to, you are left with a different kind of meaning. A meaning that does not come from importance, but from presence, from existence itself. To live, to drift, to survive in silence, perhaps that is enough. The ocean does not need every creature to be essential. It needs diversity, it needs abundance. It needs countless lives, each small in its own way, weaving together into a whole. The Dumbo octopus is one of those lives, not keystone, not pillar, not savior, just one. And maybe that is the hardest truth of all, that most of life is like this. Small, ordinary, not necessary but still real, not essential but still alive. The Dumbo octopus is not rare, it is not vital, it may not matter, and yet it exists. And in that existence, it reminds us of something we do not often want to admit, that mattering is not required for meaning, that importance is not required for beauty, that survival itself, quiet and unnoticed, is enough. The counter case leaves you here in this stark clarity. The Dumbo octopus is not ours to romanticize, not ours to elevate, not ours to make necessary. It is simply one more life in the dark, neither more nor less significant than any other. And maybe in that ordinariness lies a different kind of wonder. You've seen both sides now. The Dumbo octopus as wonder and the Dumbo octopus as fact. The dreamlike ghost of the abyss and the opportunistic predator with nothing mystical about it. The rare jewel and the ordinary thread. The animal that matters and the animal that does not. So where do you land? Perhaps the answer is not in choosing one side over the other, but in holding both at once. Because the Dumbo octopus is neither miracle nor triviality. It is not only symbol and it is not only fact. It lives in the space between, where mystery and science meet, where awe and skepticism blur. Think of it this way: to a worm drifting in the water, the Dumbo octopus is nothing but danger, a net of arms closing in. To a shark, it is nothing but a meal small and forgettable. To the ocean itself, it is one more body, one more participant in the endless exchange of matter. And yet to us fragile beings who cannot live in the deep, who cannot endure the pressure, who cannot drift without direction, it becomes something else. It becomes perspective, because in the Dumbo octopus we see what we lack. Its softness is survival, not weakness. Its patience is strategy, not accident. Its solitude is wholeness, not wound. These are not metaphors we impose, they are realities we recognize. They resonate with us because they reflect possibilities we forget are possible. And in that resonance, meaning is born, not because the Dumbo octopus intends to teach us, not because the ocean crafted it as lesson, but because when we meet it, in a video, in a submersible, in imagination, it shifts something inside us. It reminds us that life is larger than our categories, stranger than our expectations, and quieter than our noise. This is synthesis, the recognition that the Dumbo octopus does not need to matter in order to matter, that its significance is not in its ecological weight, but in the way it alters our perception. The scientist in you may resist this. Significance, after all, is usually measured in impact, in roles within ecosystems, in evolutionary pressures, in functions that ripple outward. But significance can also live in perception, in the way a single encounter can reshape how you see the world. Think of the Apollo astronauts traveling to the moon. When they looked back at Earth, small and fragile against the black, they called it the overview effect. The science of their mission did not change the Earth, but their perception of it changed forever. The Dumbo octopus is a similar overview effect of the deep. It does not shift ecosystems, but it shifts us. It makes us feel small, humble, and awake to the vastness that surrounds us. And perhaps that is its role, not keystone, not pillar, but mirror, not in the sense of reflecting us, but in the sense of reflecting our limits of knowledge, our limits of perspective, our limits of control. The Dumbo octopus is not a dream, and yet it feels like one. It is not rare, and yet it feels precious. It is not essential, and yet it feels meaningful. That tension is the truth. That tension is the point. Because the world is not divided into what matters and what does not. The world is not cleanly sorted into miracle and mundane. Life is richer, stranger, subtler than that. Life is both. The Dumbo octopus is both. So perhaps we do not need to decide. Perhaps we can let it remain both predator and poem, both ordinary and extraordinary. Perhaps the truest way to honor it is not to reduce it to symbol or to strip it down to fact, but to let it drift in between. Picture it again, the Dumbo octopus, small against the dark, fins pulsing like wings. You know now that it is hunting, that its beauty is born of efficiency, that its grace is adaptation. But you also know what it does to you, how it opens your chest with wonder, how it unsettles your sense of certainty. Both things are true, both things belong. And in that coexistence, something shifts. You no longer need to decide whether the Dumbo octopus is extraordinary. You only need to accept that life itself is extraordinary, even in its ordinary forms. Because isn't that the real lesson here? That the ordinary can be wondrous if we choose to see it that way. That survival itself, even when small and unnoticed, can hold beauty. That the quiet persistence of a soft-bodied octopus drifting in black water can mean more than all the noise we make above the waves. The Dumbo octopus does not need to matter in the ways we crave. It matters because it exists. It matters because we encounter it, however briefly, and are changed. So yes, the Dumbo octopus is an animal, a mollusk, a predator, a life shaped by scarcity and darkness, But it is also more, not because it carries meaning within itself, but because it awakens meaning in us. Both truths stand, both truths belong. This is the synthesis, not certainty, not conclusion, but acceptance. The Dumbo octopus drifts in the abyss, soft, silent, patient, ordinary, extraordinary, and we, for a moment, drift with it. When you think about the Dumbo octopus now, you no longer see only one face. You see both the quiet drift of wonder and the hard biology of survival, the softness of fins and the hunger of a predator, the ordinariness of an abyssal mollusk and the extraordinariness of its effect on us. It is not contradiction anymore, it is coexistence, and in that coexistence, a new kind of meaning emerges. Because the Dumbo octopus does more than survive in the deep. It shows us survival stretched across scales of time and silence we can barely comprehend. Consider patience. For us, patience is a small thing, waiting for a train, waiting for an answer, waiting for the slow crawl of minutes. But for the Dumbo octopus, patience is not a moment. It is a way of being. It may drift for hours, for days, for weeks, waiting for prey to cross its path. It may hold its eggs inside its body for months, releasing them only when the moment allows. It may live its entire life without ever seeing another of its kind, without ever sharing space or touch, and yet it does not wither in that solitude. This is not patience as we know it. This is patience as existence itself. And when you think about that, you begin to feel time differently. You begin to imagine life not as urgency, not as constant motion, but as drift. Slow, quiet, unhurried. A life measured not in events but in endurance. A life not defined by what is accomplished but by the fact of continuing at all. What would it mean to live like that? To move not in haste but in quiet persistence. To accept scarcity not as crisis but as condition. The Dumbo octopus does not panic when food is rare. It does not despair when the dark stretches unbroken. It yields, it continues, it waits. And in that waiting, it survives. This is the lesson hidden in synthesis, that survival can look different than we imagine. It does not always roar, it does not always fight. Sometimes survival is softness, sometimes it is surrender, sometimes it is patience stretched across years. And perhaps that is why the Dumbo octopus feels so alien to us, not because it is strange, but because it reveals another way to be alive. Another script for existence, one we barely recognize because it contrasts so sharply with ours. Our lives are loud, timed, measured, pushed forward by clocks and schedules, by goals and expectations. We are told to move faster, to achieve more, to claim space. But the Dumbo octopus suggests that there is another possibility, a life without rush, without spectacle, without demand for recognition. A life in which being is enough. This is not to say the Dumbo octopus is peaceful in some utopian sense. It is still predator, still hungry, still bound by the same laws of survival as all creatures. But within those laws, it has carved out a strategy that feels almost philosophical. Endure quietly, move patiently, waste nothing. And maybe that is what unsettles and comforts us at once, that its life feels like both a warning and an invitation. A warning that our stories about strength and urgency are not the only paths to survival. An invitation to imagine endurance that does not demand violence or speed. In the synthesis, you realize that the Dumbo octopus does not need to be rare to be precious, does not need to be extraordinary to be meaningful. It is meaningful precisely because it blurs those lines, because it shows us that ordinariness can hold beauty, and that beauty does not depend on spectacle. Think again of its fins flapping gently in the dark. You know now they are not wings, not ears. They are muscles moving water with slow precision, conserving energy. Yet when you see them, they still look like wings. They still look like ears. They still awaken the image of flight, the echo of a storybook elephant. Both truths are present at once. Both belong. This is not contradiction. This is harmony. The Dumbo octopus is both what it is and what it awakens in us. Biology and metaphor, science and wonder, necessity and poetry. And that harmony extends beyond the animal itself. It extends into the ocean. The abyss is not empty, but neither is it abundant. It is not lifeless, but neither is it full. It is a place of balance, of scarcity met with patience, of silence filled with subtle rhythms. The Dumbo octopus embodies this balance. It is not the ruler of its world, it is not the victim of it. It is part of it, woven seamlessly into the fabric. Perhaps that is the larger synthesis, that life does not need to dominate to belong. The Dumbo octopus does not bend the abyss to its will. It fits itself to the abyss, soft enough, patient enough, flexible enough to endure where others could not. And in this, it offers us something profound, a reminder that belonging is not conquest. Belonging is adaptation. Belonging is learning to live within limits, not breaking them. This is what the Dumbo octopus teaches us, not because it intends to, not because it carries lessons, but because when we see it, we are forced to confront the way it lives. And in confronting it, we confront ourselves. So here at last the two stories meet, the story of wonder and the story of fact, the Dumbo octopus as symbol and the Dumbo octopus as animal. They do not cancel each other, they complete each other, because to see only wonder is to distort, to see only fact is to flatten, but to see both is to see more fully. The Dumbo octopus drifts in the dark, both ordinary and extraordinary, both predator and poem. It survives without needing our gaze, and yet our gaze changes us. It belongs to the abyss, and yet for a moment it belongs to us as well. And maybe that is enough. The Dumbo octopus does not know meaning. It does not wake in the black water asking what its life is for. It does not wonder if it matters. It does not search for purpose. It eats, it drifts, it reproduces, it dies. Its existence is quiet, circular, untroubled by the weight of questions. And yet when we look at it, we cannot help but load it with meaning. We cannot resist the urge to turn its drifting into a metaphor, its patience into wisdom, its solitude into poetry. Why? Because where it feels nothing, we feel everything. Where it drifts without questions, we are drowning in them. This is where the synthesis deepens. The Dumbo octopus is not a teacher, but in observing it, we become students anyway. Because in its way of being, we glimpse a mirror to our own dilemmas. Consider survival. For us, survival is noisy. It is wrapped in economies, in schedules, in the endless rush to secure more than we need. We hoard, we compete, we expand. Our survival is measured in growth. But the Dumbo octopus suggests another form of survival, one not built on conquest but on alignment. It does not demand more than its world can give. It does not stretch beyond its environment. It yields to it, molds itself into it, until survival is not a battle but a balance. What would it mean for us to live like that? To shape ourselves to the world, instead of forcing the world to shape itself to us? Or consider solitude. For us, solitude often feels like a wound. We measure ourselves by connection, by recognition, by the eyes that see us. Loneliness haunts us because we crave reflection in others. The Dumbo octopus knows none of this. It may live decades without seeing another of its kind, and yet its life continues. Solitude is not absence. Solitude is the shape of its world. What would it mean for us to carry solitude without ache? To live without demanding an audience? To drift unseen, uncelebrated, and still be whole? And then there is time. For us, time is acceleration. Progress measured in hours, years, lifetimes. We hurry toward goals, toward resolutions, toward futures. We grow restless in waiting. The Dumbo octopus does not hurry. Its time is stretched, slowed, patient. A day may bring nothing. A week may pass in drifting. A year may vanish without change. And still it lives. Time is not urgency for it. Time is simply water flowing past. What would it mean for us to hold time that way? To see waiting not as emptiness, but as life itself. In each of these comparisons, the Dumbo octopus is not speaking to us. It is not teaching us. It is not aware of us. But when we look at it, we confront the contrast, and the contrast changes us. This is the paradox of meaning, that we find it not in what intends to give it, but in what is indifferent to us. The Dumbo octopus does not need to matter, but in not mattering, it matters even more. And here the synthesis comes full circle, because the Dumbo octopus is both fact and symbol, both predator and poem, both ordinary and extraordinary. Its meaning is not inside itself, but in the encounter between it and us. The moment when its drifting touches our imagination and something inside us shifts. Perhaps this is what mystery really is. Not the absence of knowledge, but the presence of resonance. Not ignorance, but connection. Mystery is when we meet something outside us that still shapes us, even without trying. The Dumbo octopus is mysterious not because it is unknowable, but because it is indifferent, because it lives fully without needing us at all. And in that indifference, we are forced to reckon with the truth that life does not revolve around us, that meaning is not granted by others, that existence itself is enough. This realization is both unsettling and freeing. Unsettling because it strips us of the illusion of centrality. Freeing because it opens a new possibility, that we too might live without demanding to be seen, without demanding to be justified, that we might drift, patient and soft, and still be whole. Imagine yourself again deep in the ocean, suspended beside the Dumbo octopus. The darkness is total, the silence heavy. Your body feels fragile here, out of place, dependent on machines. And yet beside you, the octopus drifts with ease. It does not rush, it does not question, it does not break. Its presence feels like an answer to a question you didn't know you were asking. Not an answer in words, but an answer in being. You realize then that the Dumbo octopus is not miraculous because it is strange. It is miraculous because it is itself. Because in a world of scarcity and pressure, of darkness and distance, it endures, quietly, softly, patiently. And maybe that is enough for us too. Because in the end, what is survival if not patience? What is belonging if not adaptation? What is meaning if not the ability to live unseen and still endure? The Dumbo octopus drifts, and in its drifting it opens a space inside you, a space where awe and fact, poetry and biology, mystery and clarity coexist, not resolved, not concluded, but held together like two currents meeting in the same water. This is the synthesis. The Dumbo octopus does not matter, and it matters entirely. It is ordinary and extraordinary. It is predator and poem. And in holding both truths at once, you glimpse something larger. Not just about it, but about life itself. The Dumbo octopus is only one creature, small, soft, scattered across the oceans in silence. If you measured its impact on the world by weight or number, you might barely notice it. Yet here you are, still with it, still thinking about it, still letting its image ripple outward. This is the gift of synthesis, that the Dumbo octopus is not only itself, it is also a doorway. Through it you glimpse something larger, the shape of all hidden life, the truth that survival does not look only like us, that meaning is not owned by noise or dominance. For every Dumbo octopus drifting unseen, there are thousands of other creatures, living entire lives without our knowledge. Creatures that have never appeared on a screen, never been catalogued, never been named. Translucent fish with organs glowing faintly in the dark. Tiny crustaceans carrying lanterns in their bodies. Worms that shimmer like falling sparks. Jellyfish that pulse slowly as though time itself has slowed around them. Whole worlds of life, rich and vast, woven into the abyss, and we have only glimpsed the edges. Less than 1% of the deep ocean has been observed directly. Less than 1%. Imagine that. We map the stars with greater precision than we map the trenches beneath our own seas. We build telescopes that reach galaxies away, and yet our own planet remains veiled. The Dumbo octopus is not an exception. It is a representative, a reminder that the Earth is still alive with mystery, if only we are willing to look down as well as up. And perhaps that is why it matters. Not because it reshapes ecosystems, not because it dominates food webs, but because it cracks open the illusion that we have seen it all. Because it whispers that life is still larger than our sight. You think of all the species we will never know, the ones that will live and die in silence, undiscovered, unnoticed, their names never written, their lives no less real for being unseen. Perhaps the Dumbo octopus feels miraculous because it proves what we suspect, that mystery is not gone, that it swims around us still, invisible, patient, indifferent to our gaze. And then beyond the abyss you think of life in general, all of it, the tiny bacteria that carve minerals in rocks, the insects that pollinate forests unnoticed, the moss that creeps along stone, the coral that grows centimeter by centimeter unseen until centuries have passed. All of it quiet, all of it unobserved, all of it alive. We measure importance by attention, but importance does not require attention. The Dumbo octopus reminds us of this, but so does every life form that endures without witness. The truth is not that the Dumbo octopus is rare. The truth is that seeing it is rare, seeing anything deeply is rare. And in this way it reflects us back at ourselves, because we too long to be seen, we too crave recognition. But what if recognition is not the measure of meaning? What if being, existing, enduring, moving through time is enough? The Dumbo octopus suggests this possibility, not through intention, not through teaching, but simply by living in darkness and surviving without audience. And this thought ripples wider still, beyond octopuses, beyond the deep sea, outward to the entire web of life. The earth does not perform for us, the forests do not grow for us, the oceans do not churn for us, the stars do not shine for us, and yet we are changed by them, we are humbled by them, we are made more human by what is utterly indifferent to humanity. This is the paradox of wonder. It does not require us, and yet we require it. And so the Dumbo octopus becomes more than symbol, more than animal, more than mystery. It becomes a thread pulling you into the larger realization that meaning is not given but found, that life is not important because it serves us but because it exists at all. The abyss itself becomes part of this reflection. Imagine it now stretching beneath you, miles of water, cold and silent, filled with lives you will never meet. A vastness that humbles you, a depth that ignores you, a darkness that contains more light than you ever guessed. Not light of the sun, but light of creatures themselves, glowing faintly in rhythms we do not yet understand. And in that vastness, a Dumbo octopus drifts, not extraordinary, not central, just alive. And somehow that is enough to reframe your sense of the world. Because what is the measure of meaning if not this? That a single creature, unseen by most of humanity, can shift the way you think about existence itself. That a small life in the dark can open your mind to the immensity of life everywhere. The Dumbo octopus is not a metaphor, it is not a miracle, it is only itself, but in being itself it becomes both. This is synthesis in its fullest form, not choosing between science and wonder but holding them together. Not reducing the Dumbo octopus to fact, not inflating it to fantasy but allowing it to remain what it is. A creature both fragile and enduring, both ordinary and extraordinary, both indifferent and transformative. And perhaps, if you let it, this realization can ripple into your own life, to remind you that you too do not need to perform to matter, that you do not need to be rare to be precious, that your existence, quiet and uncelebrated, is still alive with meaning. Like the Dumbo octopus, you drift, you endure, you wait, and perhaps that is enough. So now the synthesis closes its circle. The Dumbo octopus does not matter in the ways we thought it might. It is not keystone, not savior, not myth. And yet it matters more deeply than we realized, not because of what it does, but because of what it awakens. The abyss holds it, the ocean sustains it, and we, for a brief moment, glimpse it and are changed. The Dumbo octopus drifts, and through it you see the truth, that life itself in all its forms is the miracle. The Dumbo octopus drifts in darkness, and now as you hold its image in your mind, a question begins to grow. Not about it alone, but about everything it represents, about all that remains hidden, unseen, unmeasured in the deep. Because for all we have said, for all we have pieced together, the truth is this: we do not know. We do not know how many Dumbo octopuses live in the oceans. We do not know how long they live, or how far they travel, or how often they meet one another. We do not know what hunts them most, or whether they communicate in ways our machines cannot detect. We do not even know if we have truly seen them at their best, or only seen the shadows disturbed by our presence, pale imitations of what they are in their own silence. And beyond the Dumbo octopus, the questions multiply. How many other lives wait in the abyss unseen? How many forms of survival exist, stranger still, unimagined by us? What else drifts in silence? What else endures in darkness, indifferent to our gaze? The deep sea is not empty, it is vast. It is filled with rhythms we cannot hear, with currents we cannot map, with creatures that vanish before we can even name them. The Dumbo octopus is proof of this, but it is only proof of one small thread. Around it stretch millions more, knotted into a fabric too wide for us to hold. This is the open loop, to stand at the edge of knowledge and realize how wide the horizon still is. To see that what we know is fragile, partial, temporary, and that the unknown is far larger. Even our tools betray this truth. Every expedition is short. Every submersible dive lasts hours at most. Every camera beam cuts only a narrow cone into the dark. We are like children pressing our faces to a keyhole, glimpsing flickers of a room we can never fully enter. And yet we pretend that those flickers are enough to map the whole. But the ocean resists us. It remains untamed. It holds its secrets with patience. And so the Dumbo octopus drifts unseen for most of its life. Never captured, never measured, never catalogued. It is not withholding itself, it simply does not need us. Its existence is complete without our knowledge. This thought lingers, because if so much of life remains hidden, then what does that say about us? That our knowledge, wide as it feels, is always partial. That our maps, precise as they seem, are always incomplete. That the world, even now, remains larger than we can comprehend. And this uncertainty does not close, it opens. What if there are creatures deeper still, stranger than the Dumbo octopus, stranger than anything we have imagined? What if there are lives so delicate that our machines will never touch them, so rarefied that they exist only in silence, vanishing if disturbed? What if entire ecosystems thrive unseen in trenches we have never entered? And further, what if our presence changes them? What if our lights, our noise, our mining, our waste, are reshaping lives we do not even know exist? How many creatures will disappear before we have ever learned their names? These questions are not comfortable. They resist resolution. They force us to admit that mystery is not romantic, it is also fragile, it is also loss. The Dumbo octopus becomes a symbol of this tension. We know just enough to feel awe, but not enough to feel certainty. We can glimpse, but not hold. We can study, but never fully understand. It lives in the gap between knowledge and mystery, and that gap is where we are left standing. And maybe that is the point. Maybe the Dumbo octopus is less about answers than about the reminder that answers will never be complete. That mystery will always stretch further, deeper, wider than we can reach. That the world will always hold more than we can know. Think of it as you sit here, the Dumbo octopus drifts unseen. Not one but many scattered across the ocean, fins pulsing in rhythm with currents you cannot feel. Around them, other lives you will never meet. Entire chains of being unfolding without witness, without audience, without need of us. And you are here imagining them. Your mind drifts into their darkness, into their silence, into their patience. You reach across distance, across indifference, and yet you touch nothing. They do not know you, they do not need you. And still, you are changed. This is the paradox of the open loop, that we are altered by what does not even acknowledge us, that we are expanded by what does not require us, that we are haunted by lives that will never know our names. The Dumbo octopus drifts, the ocean holds its secrets, and you are left with questions unanswered, unanswerable. What else is out there? How much remains unseen? What does it mean to live in a world where most of life is invisible? The Dumbo octopus cannot answer. The ocean will not answer. The questions remain, circling, widening, deepening. And maybe that is what you carry with you. Not resolution, not conclusion, but the ache of mystery, the hum of questions without end. Because the truth is not that we know too little. The truth is that the unknown will always outpace us. And that is not failure. That is the condition of being alive. The Dumbo octopus drifts, and the ocean remains vast, and you are left here wondering. And perhaps that wondering is the point. The Dumbo octopus drifts, and in that drifting you are left with silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of questions that have no end. Because after all this, after the science, the awe, the counter case, the synthesis, what remains? Not an answer, not a conclusion, only the quiet realization that some lives will always remain beyond our grasp. That mystery is not something to be solved, but something to be lived with. The Dumbo octopus is not rare to itself, it is not strange to itself, it is not fragile to itself, it is only what it is. But to us it will always be more, a ripple in the dark, a flicker of softness against the vast. A reminder that the world is larger than our sight, larger than our science, larger than our questions. And so the loop remains open. Because what do we truly know? We do not know how many drift in the dark, unseen. We do not know how long they live or how far they travel or what patterns govern their presence. We do not know what other creatures move beside them, what songs or signals may pass through the water in frequencies we cannot hear. We do not know what lies deeper still, in trenches untouched, in shadows unbroken by light. The ocean holds these answers in silence. It has always held them. It will go on holding them long after us. And yet we keep asking, we keep reaching. We keep lowering machines into the abyss, hoping for another glimpse, another fragment, another moment when the Dumbo octopus drifts into view. We are not searching for data alone. We are searching for contact, for the humbling reminder that the unknown is not gone, that it still surrounds us, indifferent and immense. The Dumbo octopus gives us that reminder, not by trying, not by offering itself, simply by existing quietly where we cannot reach. And perhaps that is enough. Because when you think of it, when you close your eyes and imagine its fins pulsing like wings, its body soft against the black, you feel something stir. A mixture of awe and unease, of wonder and humility. You feel the weight of all you do not know, and for once that weight feels right, not a burden but a gift. Proof that there is still mystery. Proof that the world still exceeds us. Proof that being alive means not knowing everything. This is where the story ends, not in answers but in questions. Not in resolution, but in openness. What else drifts in the abyss, unseen? What else waits in silence, indifferent to us? What does it mean to live in a world where most of life is invisible, most of meaning unmeasured, most of mystery unresolved? The Dumbo octopus cannot tell you, the ocean will not tell you, the questions remain. And maybe that is how it should be. Because what would it mean if everything were known? If every corner of the ocean were mapped, every life catalogued, every question answered? Would we be richer or would we be smaller? Would wonder survive if mystery did not? The Dumbo octopus drifts and the mystery drifts with it. Neither closing, neither resolving, neither offering itself for capture. And in that drift you find a strange peace. Because life is not about answers alone. It is about presence, about existing in the midst of questions, about enduring in the dark, patient, soft, alive. The Dumbo octopus does not wait to be seen. It does not need our gaze. It does not need our wonder. And yet, in drifting past our lights, in brushing against our attention, it gives us something we cannot name, something that lingers after the lights go out. Perhaps it is not meaning. Perhaps it is not knowledge. Perhaps it is simply the reminder that the unknown is still alive and that we are still small within it. And so the loop remains open. The Dumbo octopus drifts. The abyss endures. The questions wait. And you lying here, listening, drifting towards sleep, are part of it too. Soft, fragile, alive, are suspended in mystery.